I am going to reiterate the same thing I did for the last video. I have a podcast coming out. It's always been out. It's called the Seasons Pod. Well, actually, I'm giving out information I even put in the last video, but we'll get there when we get there. I have a podcast coming out. It's called Seasons. It's kind of like trying to do a podcast in the cinematography lens, or making it more of a conversation rather than sitting at a table and you know talk about things that I feel like are near and dear. I'd rather just show how life moves through my story alone, and how being a main character in my own story and being like an extra in somebody else's story and allowing them to go through their experience and go through other people's experiences. I think something about that is very humanizing for me to do a podcast for, no matter what the topic is, no matter what the topic is, even if that person were to change. Like, every time I release an episode, whether I have a guest or it's me, like, I want to see the evolution of my character alone from point A to point B in a real authentic way. And I feel like that's the best way to flex my cinematography muscle, as well as my desire to showcase the realities of being young, but also the brutalities of just existing in life, whether whatever that may be, whatever outlet that may look like. So it's gonna be in the description below. It's gonna have the Spotify link to it. First episode comes out this Saturday at 12 p.m. Make sure you guys look out for that. If not, that's fine too. I want you to watch whatever you want. I watch whatever I want. I You can't tell me what I'm gonna watch. But if you are interested and you are inclined to see as such, then by all means. But we're gonna get back to the topic at hand, which is by the title, Sakamoto days. I was complaining. I was complaining too much. And let me tell you why I was complaining too much. The real reason why I was complaining too much is because the main thing that I wanted was a buff for Hisuke and Shin, and we got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we got the buff. I don't know how else to explain. Why am I whispering? I don't know how else to explain it, but we got the buff. Instead of, and you know what's crazy? I don't know why I didn't think of this myself. Like, why didn't I think about, as opposed to rewriting other people's thoughts, he can rewrite his own and like let his body do the movements. Like, why didn't I think of that? I don't even get paid to do this, and I chose to do this, and yet I couldn't think of that. It is what it is. But the bow person is very interesting. That you can kind of say, like, excuse any copyright that this might bring. You can kind of say, like, the bowman has kind of like a hawk eye, and I mean, like, literally, like, he keeps the eye patch on, and then once he opens his eye after not using it, he's able to see like really well. And all I can think about is like Hawkeye the Avenger. I know that's probably corny saying that out loud. Hawkeye the Avenger. But we know the man is nice with a bow, and I think that his vision is so crazy that he can get into the darkness and just mink mink mink. But the thing about it, the way that he's been using this bow, the creativity for the fight choreography, get him an award. Get him an award. He needs one now. But Shin and him are literally, they're going bar for bar. This fight is hard. I haven't seen a Shin fight this hard since I haven't seen a Shin fight this hard. This might be my favorite fight for Shin because it's so much growth in it, and there's so much that comes with it. But it's crazy that in the same moment that Shin is like elevating, this bowman is not. He's not stopping. He's not dropping the ball at all. He got punched. He got literally punched. Took the tooth. Shot the tooth in the bow. What? He's locked in. He's locked in. And so it's like, Homeboy's a monster. But as the series goes, Shin is starting to push himself, and so my fear is the drawback. Like Nagamo had said, I was expecting a more physical drawback, but now that he's slowing the things around him down due to his perception of his brain and the processing speed, now we're reaching a certain territory that I'm concerned about. But in that moment, that he literally is understanding that he is getting nasty, literally nasty. But the part of the chapter that really moved me, and of course it probably moved everyone for that matter, but the fact that Shin was standing over him with tears in his eyes, and it's like he thought that when it came down to it, he would hope that he would hesitate. And it's like, how many times do we make mistakes thinking that, like, not even mistakes, how many times do we make decisions thinking that we would never be capable of doing so? Or we thought, based on who we thought we were, that we would never hesitate to make certain decisions. And then what it boils down to is you're not who you think you are. But I think that Shin misses this point of his lack of hesitation is not due to him being an assassin that wants to kill. It's due to caring for another person that he's willing to kill for. And I think that there's a big difference. He's not just some assassin. And for him, he said that he feels nothing holding him back from committing the job, which is hard. And he's saying how he's not the type of person that should be at that store, like working around. And it's like, that's crazy that he has such a mindset just because of the lack of hesitation, not knowing that it comes from a place of compassion that he would have never got if he wasn't with Sakamoto. Like this version of Shin would not have happened if it wasn't for being with Sakamoto's crew. And that's just something that we can't take from him. And as he's about to make that decision, this man Sakamoto is already there. I thought the lottery guy, I thought the lottery guy was gonna stop him or step in. But the fact that they just showed him just because, I guess showing him means that Sakamoto is there. I didn't I didn't take it like that. I didn't understand it to be like that, but maybe that's the mark that I was missing. But Sakamoto stops him from doing so. And so one thing that's very interesting to me is this is now a moment where Sakamoto can be like, "What are you doing?" I know how hard it is not to do it because the man is the peak assassin in the story, like Prime. And I know there's a lot of discussion about if Prime Sakamoto really is the top of the game. They said he's the greatest, and I think a lot of people are like he's not the strongest. And I think my argument is, what is the point of being the greatest in the field if you're not the strongest? Unless we're talking about literal physical strength, I don't believe any assassin. If someone is the greatest assassin, I don't believe that there should be anyone in contention to beat that person because the whole job is to kill someone. It's to off someone. Like, what are we talking about here? If he's the world's greatest assassin, I think assassin. I just got clowned. Mentally, I just got clowned. If he's the world's greatest assassin, he should be able to lock in on anybody. Like, it should not be a contest of strength. It should be a contest of what the job is. Can he get it done? He gets it done the best. And that job can be anything. If he's never had a failed mission, I want you to think about that. Even if he had not fought Tokomura back in the day and Takamura was a mission, he was the best assassin at that time. There were other assassins going on around that time, and you're telling me that out of all the assassins they could have chose and picked from, this man alone is called the greatest assassin. What is the point of having the greatest assassin and then you have the fastest assassin, then you have the strongest assassin? Like, what's the point of that? That'd be like, I feel like people treat it like the Mihawk and Shanks, but like I feel like there's caveats to it. Because I feel like with Mihawk and Shanks, there are other like factors that we were equipping to that to that to that title. Shanks, I mean Mihawk, world's strongest swordsman, right? Or world's greatest, world's strongest, whatever the case may be. World's strongest implies that with that sword, there is no one better than him at sword techniques and whatnot. But when you factor in hockey, of course, everyone has the hockey argument, but it's a real argument. If Shanks is better observation hockey, if Shanks is better hockey application, and so forth and so forth and so forth, why would we not put Shanks above? Especially if Shanks has a higher AP output when it comes for hockey, but doesn't have a better physical strength stat than Mihawk. That makes perfect sense. But for Sakamoto days, we are talking about assassins. They only have the stats that they have. So in this case, being called the world's strongest would make sense in terms of there is somebody physically stronger than Sakamoto. But that's not the term they use. They use the world's greatest. That means all encompassing, well rounded, wherever the case may be. There may be some people who are, I think Hio sometimes can physically outperform Prime Sakamoto because I think each assassin that's been in the order, they have something that makes them special for each one differently. And I think that's something that's very important. And so what I look forward to is where do we go from here? As Sakamoto watches Shin attempt to do something, like what is the consequence? What do we see from here? Is it going to be connection? Is it going to be 10Q really getting body? Is it going to be what's going to happen? Who's going to take advantage of what? This moment is very pivotal because for the first time, what I've always wanted to see in Sakamoto days is someone struggle to not follow the rules. And Shin being one of the first people to really tackle that makes so much sense considering he's the first person that was really believing in this and really served in it and gave his heart to it. And that's why I feel like he locked in so quickly. And so I think for Sakamoto, depending on what happens, I'm so curious what we're gonna see. And of course, the next chapter is gonna come out next week, so we're gonna see as soon as we know. And I'm ready to see it. I know you ready to see it. Well, with that, I'm gonna leave it at that. Sakamoto Days is hard. Kagurabachi is hard. That's all I'm reading. Well, no, I'm not. I'm reading more than that. But that's all I'm gonna comment on in the video until I can get my notes down for Chainsaw Man because it's stressing me out. Y'all be blessed.